Hello, G fans. For the 24th film, I'm focusing on Son of Godzilla. This movie came out in 1967 after a film I don't really care for these days, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, and then we get Son of Godzilla, a movie that another one that many fans hate to the core. Excuse me, but you know what? When I finally watched this movie after avoiding it for many years, I bought the Sony DVD. You know, I noticed this movie is nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be, especially compared to a lot of the other crappy movies that came out after it, like Godzilla vs. Gigan. In fact, it's one of the most misunderstood Godzilla movies to me, although don't get me wrong, there's still a lot wrong with it. However, to me, with a little tweaking, this could have been one of the best entrances in the series. As far as, as opposed to like Godzilla vs. Sea Monster, which would need heavy rewriting to make it a really good Godzilla movie, this one only needed a few minor tweaks, and I think it could have been really good. And of course, monster designs, namely Godzilla and Manila, or Minya, whatever you want to call them. But let's get down to it. Before I say anything else, I gotta give thanks to Teshu Arikawa, because by far the best thing about this movie were the details and the movements of the marionettes. They were freaking amazing. For people not aware of what marionettes are, you probably should by now, for Godzilla fans go, marionettes are anything that's not really controlled by a man in a suit, but is instead an actual prop that's controlled by strings like a puppet. So things like Mothra flying around is usually a marionette. And things like Manda crawling around the ground is also usually a marionette. Marionettes allow you to do more things that move less like traditional animals and more like insects or serpents. And lo and behold, because the main stars of this movie are Kamakurse and Kumanga, a giant praying mantis and a giant spider. Now, while this may not seem very creative to me, they looked fantastic, and it's a lot better writing choice than having a giant condor and a giant lobster. These monsters looked and sounded and moved fantastic. It was just a great writing choice. These are, like I said, not some of my favorite monsters because at the end of the day, they are still not super original. However, they do look great, and people forget how powerful Kumanga was in this movie. Kumanga basically took Godzilla down. It took the team up of Godzilla and his son to beat Kumanga, which was so disappointing to see Kumanga be such a weak and easy to beat opponent in freaking Godzilla Final Wars, or like every other monster in that movie, Kumanga was a joke. My favorite thing about this movie I may really admired because the cinematography and monster angle of the story was handled very well and given plenty of character. The jungle sets, basically every miniature on Sajil Island looked really good for the time. It matched with Tsuburai's work to me. Cinematography, which is great. There's a lot of comparison shots with the monsters and human characters, which is something that, to me, it's something to excuse me, really, really admire. And like I said, there's a lot of great sets in here, and as much as people may hate this one, you can see its influence later on because of the franchise, namely with a film known as Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, the 1993 film, which would use this same story concept pretty much right off the back of this one. Godzilla comes ashore to a foreign island that's uninhabited to find, what else, a baby Godzilla, and while there encounters many other monsters. So, to me, this movie, as far as story goes, stands up pretty freaking well. I should also mention that the human characters to me, basically they're kind of a rehash of Godzilla vs. Sea Monster. However, they're still very interesting and pretty well handled. I did like them. They were interesting. I actually cared what happened to them, which matters quite a bit. The reason why people look down this film was obviously Manila, also known as Minya, or simply the Showa version of Baby Godzilla. And the biggest complaint to have about him, other than just being child-friendly, is that he looks nothing like Godzilla to me. The fact that he's a very flat dare I say, human-like face, or I guess I'll go with a Pillsbury Doughboy type of face. Doesn't make any sense when all the Godzilla films up to this point portray Godzilla having a snout like any other reptile, so why the fact they gave him a flat human face doesn't make any sense. It was an attempt to make him cute, but it didn't really work, so he just looks like shit, and yeah, like I said, Manila has always looked like shit. I fucking despise the damn little bastard. It's just bad. However, like I said, Manila was probably the weakest part of this movie just because the design choice was just done very badly. And a lot of the film has, basically cutesy shots of Godzilla and Manila cuddling, and it's not what you would expect in a Godzilla movie. It's not what you expect at all, really. Any Godzilla movie hasn't been seen since. However, to me, if they had done these scenes right with a proper baby Godzilla, and a little less cutesy, then I think it could have been very entertaining, which is why I still like this film quite a bit. The problem is, in order to compensate for such an ugly little baby Godzilla, they just had to redo Godzilla's design completely from the last film to, quote-unquote, make him look more like Manila, which is a very bad decision, leading to Masuko Goji. Probably my second most hated Godzilla suit ever. Basically because this suit was brand spanking new, hadn't taken any damage yet, and it already looked like shit. The face was just repugnant from basically any angle. Oh god, the spines look really weird. The suit has a very odd build to it. It's like Godzilla has some great shots in here, but the problem is I can barely enjoy them because Godzilla looks like fucking hell. His head looks like a tin can. The face is, like I said, just atrocious looking. Like I said, the monster design for Godzilla and Manila are just bad as opposed to Kamacuris and Kumanga, who looked fantastic. And that is the tragedy in this movie. And of course, the cheesiness of a lot of the scenes where Godzilla and Manila hang out would deter a lot of people, but I think a lot of fans will enjoy it. The younger fans, specifically speaking. The score by Masaru Satao is decent, but it can get pretty campy. Definitely, especially with the Godzilla Manila hanging out scenes. But, unlike in the last film, director Jun Fukuda seems to know this, and he relies a lot more on silence in the score. There's a lot of moments there's just no music at all, which works for the movie's advantage. Although I should note that they do use the little Kumanga theme, which I did love. That music will be used again in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla while King Caesar and Mecha G fight. And I did like that score. It's very catchy. It's entertaining. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you don't pay attention to the scores of these movies enough to realize it. Or maybe you can just watch the movie again and find out. Either way, that was an interesting part of the score. Probably the only part of the score of this movie I actually liked. The rest of the score to me was mostly trash. Did not care for it.